And you heard that guy, and we had him on hold during the break. They didn't know if I wanted to let him go yet, and I could hear him rambling about, there'll be turbulence at first, but once we have the world government, it'll be fine. He was still talking, not even knowing we'd ended that segment. I hear this constantly. You know, we're going to have a world government. It's going to be loving. It's going to give you peace. I'm going to put on screen the Financial Times of London article by their foreign desk editor titled, "And Now for World Government." And he goes on to say it's authoritarian, that they've built it in secret, but that it's for our own good. What have all these major top environmentalists said lately? The public's too dumb to pass global carbon taxes. We have to do it whether they want it or not. And who are the carbon taxes paid to? The very same central banks that have engineered the collapse. It's feudalism. It's control. Remember the SPP, North American Union documents that came out a few years ago? How the main order of business of the Canadian, U.S., and Mexican government is to keep the merger of our countries secret, the merger of our infrastructures and our military secret from the public. North American integration by stealth. That's in the Council on Foreign Relations white papers as well on the subject. North American integration by stealth. See, we don't want this, even though you went to college and somebody patted you on the head and said, you're an intellectual, because big corporations fund this university and they want to set up their own global, unelected, unaccountable government, and then we tell you that you're liberal and trendy and smart because you want globalism. We've seen what globalism is. It's war and tyranny and death and the international community going around and attacking defenseless nations. It's UN rape gangs running child slavery and white slavery operations worldwide. I mean, read your headlines. Globalization is BP bossing our government around. Look at Europe. The people there have unanimously voted. They don't want GMO crops. They don't want it. They want to decide what they're going to eat. Their government caves in through globalism and goes ahead and does it. So the global government that you want so dearly is being set up. In fact, here's a Raw Story article today. Study. IMF document illustrates plan to raise global currency. It's no secret that many of the world's largest industrialized nations are somewhat eager to ease their reliance on the U.S. dollar. For months, China and Russia have pushed ever suddenly for a new global reserve currency to give governments around the world enhanced economic stability in the event of greater fluctuations of the dollar's value. And it goes on that the IMF and World Bank are calling for a global currency run by the private banks, SDRs. A 35-page exploration and footnotes, the IMF Strategy, Policy and Review Department lays out how and why global currency, which would move from inside money as the SDR to an outside money that is traded by governments. So the very global banks that want the world government and are financing the open borders, everything, they now want to issue their own currency that you must use and then have governments sign on that they lose control of their economic destiny and their monetary destiny. I mean, we already have had the Federal Reserve for 97 years, since 1913, running our fiscal policy and giving themselves incredible power. They literally have an Aladdin's lamp of private money creation for themselves. It's a fraud. And Kinley and Bernie Madoff and BP under Clinton came out with the idea of a global carbon tax to fund these SDRs, and you think it's a great idea. Well, the good news is the population's been educated and they don't want it, so the globalists are trying to do it by stealth. So understand, I don't live under what system you want just because you're a control freak. All right, let's go to your calls quickly now. Rob in Mass, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Alex, thank you again for having me on. I have a constitutional question for you regarding the federal government's lawsuit against the state of Arizona.
Okay.
Okay. My question is on the interpretation of Article 2, Section 4 of the Constitution under the executive powers regarding disqualification.
Well, I don't...
Can I read it to you to give it some context?
Sure.
All right. As it's written, Section 4, disqualification. The President, the Vice President, and all civil officers of the United States shall be removed from office on impeachment for and conviction of treason, bribery, and other high crimes.
And then it goes on to say, if they sue a state or a private citizen on behalf of a foreign power, it is treason. And we wrote an article about that a month ago. and it is treason. The federal government is not allowed to sue an individual or state or government agency on behalf of a foreign power.
Okay, yes, sir. Now, with that in mind, shouldn't our elected officials or our soldiers or even our people kind of see this and say, hey, wait a minute, he just removed himself from office just by filing the lawsuit and going forward with it?
Yeah, you're talking about you're talking about, and by the way, those same powers are in the 9th Amendment and 10th Amendment.
Yes, they are. That's right. But by violating Article 11, does not Article 2, Section 4 apply? Where it's like, wait a minute, these guys, they totally tipped over the first domino by suing Arizona for doing.
But they don't care. Yeah, we've had what, 4 of the 9 members of the Supreme Court. One of them's been replaced by Kagan now. Write that they follow UN law. And if you've read the UN Declaration of Human Rights, Article 30 says that you have none of the previous rights they mention when the UN feels like it. This is a tyranny. No, Rob, great points. But that's the issue. You have global offshore corporations that individually, many of them have bigger GDPs than most governments. Now they're combining forces with over $100 billion in this Bill Gates Foundation, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And in the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, most of it goes to fund globalization, international takeover of curriculum in schools, vaccines, birth control, sterilization. And so this global government is private. And so they use the hordes of illegal aliens that they brought in, that they put on welfare, as their political attack dog. I mean, it's very elementary. It's treason. And yes,
divide and conquer.
It is. Yes, it is divide and conquer. Rob, I appreciate your call. Let's go ahead and talk to Brian in Texas. You're on the air, Brian.
Hey, Alex, how's it going?
Good.
I am so thankful for what you're doing. God bless you. What I wanted to talk about was yesterday I dropped my wife off at the airport, and we were already prepared for this whole naked body scanner thing. I printed out your article, just like you said, and when we went up for the security check, I showed him to the guy. I said, is she going to have to walk through one of these body scanners? He says, no, but before the end of the year, they'll be everywhere. And I said, not if this lawsuit passes. And he looked at me kind of strange. Didn't know what I was talking about. I said, do you realize the amount of radiation you're getting off of these things? And he just kind of put his head down into his book and just kind of ignored me, wouldn't talk to me.
Well, I mean, if he says core exit won't hurt him, or if he says asbestos on 9/11 won't hurt him, or if he says radiation won't hurt him, then I guess it won't. He's like Superman. He can just magically, like a genie, say Shazam. And, you know, I love Jeannie. She pops up and he says, hey, Jeannie, will you make this radiation not hurt me? And she says, you bet.
It's just so sad that even someone working there doesn't want to know the effects of what they're dealing with. I offered him the articles from Infowars.com. He wouldn't even take them.
Well, we've got to get the word out. And the good news is the airlines are against it because it's hurt upwards of 20% of their travel in the last year. There's lawsuits over it. I appreciate your call. And since you mentioned that, the TSA was in the Chicago Tribune 2 months ago saying, yes, by 2011, mid-year, so about a year from now, they said everyone will be forced through these. Now, it's already being done in El Paso. The El Paso Times reported on that a month ago. Kurt Nimmo wrote about it earlier this week at Infowars.com. We got listener tips that everyone was being forced through it. He searched the term and found out Shazam, I'm going to get addicted to saying that now, like Gomer Pyle, there it is. And they're making everybody there as a test here in Texas do that. And I have the New York Times here today, radiation questions over a body scanner. But it goes in about 2 years, and what I've read in federal documents is about a year now. If all goes according to plans, they will replace all of the lie detectors with it, and everyone will be forced at 2,200 security checkpoints at all commercial 450 airports in the United States. So it's gone in about 215 within another year and a half. They say 2 years, 450, 2,200 checkpoints total. You will be forced to have your body recorded naked, to be bathed in radiation, and they do save it, and they're a pack of criminal liars. Why shouldn't they? They already take your baby's blood for 38 years at birth, give it to the Pentagon. And then they patent your blood and sell it to private companies. When you go in for gene therapy, they say, by the way, we've already got your blood. That's how all this came out. So they're stealing your blood. They're stealing naked images of your body. It's a criminal, rogue government that works for offshore banks, setting up a world government to enforce the rape of everyone. We'll be back in a moment. Stay with us. Hour number 2, continuing with your phone calls. I got a bunch of economic news, health news, global government news, attacks on free speech and the internet information, all coming up. But let's continue with your phone calls. Brian, we just talked to him. Let's talk to Michelle in Maryland. You're on the air, Michelle.
Hi, Alex. I hope my 2 points fall in line with what you're discussing today, but I disagree with how the government are treating the 9/11 workers, and I agree with your feelings towards this topic. I work at a very prominent hospital as a nurse in Baltimore and had to take care of one of the members of either the Bilderberg or the Trilateral Commission group, not sure which one, but this member asked me what exactly is it that I do, and I said I'm a nurse considered a professional in a validated profession, went to college for 4 years, et cetera, et cetera. And this member told me, quote, no, you're a skilled laborer, that's all you are, you're skilled at taking care of people like me, end quote. And I didn't realize until many years later after listening to
No,
the
that's
show.
their religion, is to tell you you're scum and only their opinions matter and they are your God. At Bilderberg Group meetings, the staff is not allowed to look them in the eyes. That's admitted. I mean, you know, you're scum. You're there to serve them.
Right, right. And anyway, well, I'm planning on helping the rescue workers from 9/11 sometime early next year by providing free medical services and free medications by using some of my own money and through some volunteer efforts of other nurses and nurse practitioners from the Northeast. So instead of giving into commercialism and buying a luxury car or a house I can't afford, you know, I really want to help those who risk their lives for the people like us.
Well, Michelle, it's going to be people like you with the loving things they do individually that save humanity. But according to the government, you know, those firefighters and police and military people and medical workers, they're just fine. Doesn't matter how many university medical centers scan their lungs. Doesn't matter how many die. Doesn't matter how many get lung cancer. I mean, the government just says it doesn't exist.
But it does. It does. So, but thank you so much for having me on your show. Thank you.
Well, Michelle, keep it up. And do you have a website or something?
It's not up and running yet, but I'll definitely give that information to you when it is.
What do you think of Congress blocking, almost 9 years later, medical aid to them?
You know, I hear all the patients talking about they know what's going on, but, you know, I mean, it just takes efforts of people, you know, that like you and I, and, you know, we just have to really keep trying to do what we can.
Well, think about all the carnage from what's going to happen with the Gulf cleanup. I mean, it's going to dwarf all the deaths with Exxon Valdez, but the government will just say again, we want world government, but it doesn't exist. We're taking your baby's blood, but it doesn't exist. We're putting mercury in the shots that brain damage you, but it's good for you. I appreciate your call. Good points, Michelle. Let's talk to Ryan in Pennsylvania. Ryan, you're on the air.
Hey, Al.
Hey, buddy, got about a minute and a half. Go ahead.
I was just reading on the internet a little bit ago about how it's illegal to videotape police officers now in 12 states. I wanted to see what you thought about that.
Well, you know, the courts are beginning to rule on this, and they're saying the police are misapplying wiretapping, where you tap into somebody's phone or sneak into their house at night and videotape them. That's illegal. But in a public place, there's not the perception of privacy. So how can the government videotape us from the polls, but then you videotape cops 200 yards away and they come over and arrest you? They're just trying to intimidate the public in 12 states to not videotape them. It's more lawless, corrupt government thuggery.
And they can pull you over and have a dash cam rolling without your consent. And
yeah, they're just trying to set the precedent to intimidate everybody. They know full well it's not illegal, but they can still get a grand jury to indict your butt. You're an uppity blood bag that's trying to actually stand up and say you have rights. You're here to supply blood to the government. Okay, how dare you? They're going to videotape you. You're not going to videotape them. They're going to arrest you for petty infractions, but not the illegal aliens, because they're on the government team. They're on the team. And together...
How can they do that? Like, so many people, they're like public figures out in public, on the public streets and everything.
Because it's a lawless, scumbag, criminal, filth-run government that thinks it can tell you what to do. We'll be right back.